Tales by Tabletop is a story adapted from sessions of Dungeons & Dragons. It follows the saga of a trio of adventurers, Laeran, Rosjen, and Tim.
Welcome, dear listeners, to the 9th chapter of our story. Laeran, Rosjen, and Tim find themselves at a loss trying to escort Vicnys to the Fewwild. Help does appear, but in the form of two pixies, Bimmy and Trista.
Give us the letter. We will deliver it for you.
My superiors were very specific that I was supposed to deliver this letter myself, in person.
But the monarch isn't here.
Well, where are they?
In the Fewwild, of course.
Can you take us there?
Well, yeah, but are you sure you want to go?
Yes, I want to go. I want to see this place very much.
Rosjen gives Bimmy a pleading look.
Please?
Well, we can, but I'm going to need something for it. A trade.
That seems fair. What do you want? More Rosjen's shirt?
Now I already have her shirt.
Then what? Do you want a part of Laeran's shirt?
Tim reaches for the hem of Laeran's tunic, who swats away his hand with an annoyed look.
I know. Here.
Laeran holds out his holy symbol of Kelemvor, still radiating.
Your holy symbol? Really?
It's just an object. It represents, but is not, my faith. Kelemvor will understand. So, are we in agreement?
Bimmy latches onto the symbol, still hanging from Laeran's hand with a look of hunger in his eyes.
Oh, yes, please, yes. Sister, let's do this.
That works for me. As long as the light's not living light anyway.
Living light.
It's fine, don't worry about it. Give it to Bimmy.
Laeran releases the amulet, and both it and Bimmy fall nearly to the ground before he's able to recover, flapping his diminutive wings as fast as he can. He puts the oversized chain around his neck and takes a pinch of the dust swirling around him, sprinkling it over it. The holy symbol and the chain begin to shrink until they are a more manageable, but still comically large size.
Oh, yeah, boy. Okay, I'll let y'all through.
Bimmy, after bouncing the symbol on his chest a few times, flies over to the trunk of the great tree and puts his hands on it. Nothing seems to happen, but after a few seconds, he backs away from the tree and wipes his hands together as if just completing a difficult manual task.
The way is open.
Well, last one in is a rotten egg, eh?
Laeran holds his nose with one hand as he steps forward through the wide trunk of the massive tree and disappears. Vicnys bows low to the two pixies before the remainder of the party.
Thank you, kind creatures. You've been most helpful.
Oh, you're very welcome, brave knight.
Well, it's been great seeing you both again. Thank you so much.
Rosjen gives both the pixies high fives and with a chirp of excitement jumps through the portal.
Well, it's been real, y'all. We'll be seeing ya.
Tim walks to the base of the tree and slams into it face first.
Ow! What gives?
Not you. You've been rude to us.
What? How? When?
We've heard what you've been saying.
You're gonna have to be way more specific.
You've been very rude to us before. Yes, and we were so helpful.
So helpful.
Well, I'm sorry?
Not good enough. If you want to get into the wild with the rest of your friends, you must give us something more.
Yes, more.
Like what? What do I have that you could possibly want? I'm not telling you my real name if that's what you're asking. I'm not as naive as Vicnys.
No, we don't want that. We want a song.
What? I just played one for you.
That's not us. We want your next song.
Oh, hell no. You want a true fairy pact? Well, forget it. What if the next song I write is the best one I ever come up with, and I just lose it forever? That's too high a price.
You can't bargain your way out of this. If you wish to join your friends beyond the door,
You must give us your next song. It's the only way.
See, this is why I don't like hanging out with you fairies. You always take more than you give. Methods. I can't leave the others alone in the Feywilds. Laeran's been there before. That was a lifetime ago. Literally, another lifetime ago. F*** it. I accept your price. One song for safe passage.
Yay!
Trista holds out her diminutive arm for a handshake, and gingerly, but reluctantly, Tim takes it in his own. He feels a weight drop somewhere deep in the back of his mind and sighs. The pixie nods.
it's done. You can go through now.
Tim bows to the floating pixies, and with a little flourish of his cape, flips them the bird letting himself fall backwards through the trunk of the tree. He hears Bimmy yell after him as he begins to fall.
That's still very rude!
And before he has time to take another breath, Tim suddenly finds himself completely submerged in cold, dark water. He panics for a moment, and then, getting his bearings, he swims upwards, breaking the surface with a splash. Sputtering and gasping for air, he looks around and sees the others treading water in a huddle nearby. The air is heavy, gray-green, and dim, and the party cannot see very far through the perpetual twilight. Near them is a small cluster of rocks from which stretches the limbs of a bent and twisted tree.
Ugh! Nope. I'm going to find us someplace else to be.
Rosjen swims towards the rocks and scrambles her way out of the water, grabbing hold of the tree and climbing deftly up it. The others gather around below, Vicnys, Laeran, and Tim, holding onto the rocks and roots below for support.
Rosjen, do you see any land? I would quite like to get my feet onto something much firmer and drier than our current situation.
There are more trees. Lots of them. And more water. We're in some sort of swamp. I don't see any. Wait. Up ahead there. Some kind of light. And hey, there's some dry land attached to it.
Well, that's a start.
So, is this it then? Have we made it to the Fewwilds? I was expecting something more, I don't know, grand?
The getting here was the easy part. It's the getting home that'll be the problem, Vicnys.
Tim wetly slaps Vicnys on the back, sending up a spurt of murky water.
Don't listen to Tim now. Have some faith, my friend.
Laeran gives Tim a stern glance and lets go of the rock with one hand. Fishing about for a moment, Laeran successfully unhooks his mace from his belt and holds it aloft.
Kelemvor, shine a light into this dark place so I may better judge the unworthy for you.
As the final word of his prayer is uttered, the weapon flashes to life, a bright light cutting through the gloom around them. Below, the water remains dark and clouded.
Forward, friends, let us get our boots on the ground.
Man, I hope there's nothing swimming around in here with us.
The party sloshes their way forwards through the swamp, and the water becomes shallower, enough for the three taller adventurers to walk rather than swim. Vicnys carries Rosjen on his shoulders. Insects like nothing in the material plane buzz and swirl around in the air. Some far larger than their real-world counterparts, others far more delicate and graceful, many with different colored lights that crisscross and disappear into the gloom, reappearing a moment later. Despite the atmosphere, a creeping sense of the familiar tickles Rosjen's thoughts.
I feel like I've been here before.
Well, I believe that is partly because we were here before. The pixies used that doorway when they brought us to the cave for the first time.
That was only for a moment, though. And we didn't even see it. We just appeared at the top of the tree back in our world. Tim, you've been to the Feywild before. Where do you suppose we are?
I've been thinking about it for a little bit. The Feywild is another plane of existence, but it's tied very closely to our own. And it's a reflection of the lands as they are around it, or were, just in the extreme.
This must look something like what the swamps around Brewery used to be then. Before they drained the swamp for the town and keep, when the dragons still lived.
Well, it certainly doesn't look much like Brewery now.
I wonder what they had to do to change it so much.
One of the servants at the keep told me about it. It was a joint effort between some of the Knights of Brewery, the court wizard, and a druid. They found a way to drain much of the water from the lands around Brewery.
Well, they certainly did their job.
Hopefully not too well. Would be a real shame if the local Fey royalty were royally pissed at the people of Brewery for changing the world around them. What if it eventually affects them here?
I really, really hope that's not the case. But I mean, even if it was, it's not like they would kill the messenger, right?
Sure.
I'm sure we'll be just fine. Yeah.
The going continues to be slow as they trudge through the swamp, occasionally stopping to get a foot or a boot unstuck from the mud. The air in the swamp is stale and stagnant. Any sunlight they see between the trees is diffuse, as if it was filtered by a piece of parchment. They are soon able to get a better view of their destination.
I see something up ahead. A lone hut on stilts in the middle of the swamp.
Are you sure they are stilts?
Yep. Definitely not bird legs if that's what you were worried about. Also, the light seems to be coming from that pretty big crystal coming out of the ground next to it.
Eat a minotaur, swamp. I have so much mud in my boots right now.
Should we sneak up?
I say we walk up. It would be proper to knock and introduce ourselves. When dealing with the goodly folk, it never hurts to lay on the sauce when it comes to manners and honorifics, to make them feel very, very, very important.
Well, there's nothing for it then. Lead on.
The party continues through the muddy water, Laeran in front. As they approach the small hut, they can make out the source of light. A large, iridescent crystal jutting from the ground beside it. It's almost 10 feet tall, and just as wide around, shimmering and shifting with brilliant, almost neon colors. Laeran absently reaches out to place his hand on it, but stops short and recoils. He turns to look over his shoulder at his companions.
Best be careful with enchanting things in this place. One can never be too cautious.
Laeran is suddenly cut short as the familiar but peculiar sound of bones clattering raises the hairs on his neck. 2 skeletons lurch from behind the crystal.
2 arms! Ambush! God's teeth, what kind of infernal miscreations are these?
The 2 skeletons have the same crystal substance growing out of their cavities, filling their rib cages and hip bones. Shards of the substance protrude from their spines like cracked fins. Opalescent fragments trace down their arms and legs like veins. Unlike the large glowing crystal behind them, which seems to shift from one color to the next, the light from one of the skeletons glows blue, the other green. Both have dagger-like crystal shards grasped in their bony hands. Rosjen rushes in first, sweeping close to the green skeleton. With a mighty swing, she slams her quarterstaff into its chest, which only succeeds in sending a spiderweb-like crack through one of its rib bones.
These things are a little tougher than usual skeletons. That should have done it in.
Nothing is usual about what's been going on lately. Hey, you! The 1980s called. They want their color scheme back.
The when?
I don't know, it just sounded right.
Tim's words cut deep, and the skeleton reels backwards, clutching its head, as if its mind could understand the vicious mockery. Vicnys steps forward, sword and shield at the ready.
Ah, skeletons. Just what I was made for.
Vicnys swings his sword at the green skeleton, chopping into a mass of crystal and bone, sending pieces of both flying through the air. But the creature still stands. Both of the crystal-covered skeletons rush to attack Vicnys. One swings wide at the dragonborn, but Vicnys is able to deflect the blow with his shield. The other is able to get past his sword arm and slam into the paladin's face. The 2 skeletons begin to glow brighter, and a buzzing, vibrating sound starts to emanate from them. Both undead throw their arms out and heads back as light erupts from them.
Protect yourselves!
Vicnys' shield is able to block the green light. Rosjen and Tim are bathed in crackling blue light from the other skeleton. Both are left with their hair standing on ends.
Judge of the dead, aid us in our hour!
Laeran raises his mace aloft. Pale light flares from beneath his companions, soothing their wounds and heightening their senses.
All right, Laeran! Rosjen! Wail on those crystal bone bitches!
Yeah! It's a shame, though. They're almost pretty.
The neon green light glows far brighter than before as it erupts, sending a shower of crystal shards and sharp bone fragments toward Vicnys and Rosjen. With the dragonborn raising his shield and the halfling spinning her quarterstaff, both are able to deflect any pieces large enough to hurt. Vicnys then turns his attention to the blue skeleton. The paladin knocks the skeleton off balance with his shield, and he plunges his long sword upward through the opening of the skeleton's chest. Vicnys' sword glows white. Cracks in the skeleton's crystals begin to shine like daylight.
How about some light from Ilmater, you overgrown rock candy?
The bright white light encompasses the skeleton, while the crackling blue light pierces through. The adventurers are pelted with piercing crystal shards and bone fragments. All that remains of the skeleton are a pair of bony legs still standing, the stumps sizzling with static residue.
Wow! Ow! Ow! But wow! This place is amazing!
The adventurers collect themselves, and with the immediate danger of the crystal skeletons gone, the party survey their immediate surroundings. The hut remains silent and dark, the clash of battle not seeming to raise any sort of alarm or life from any inhabitants within. Beyond it, An old wooden bridge is seen extending off into the gloom.
There seems to be some sort of path ahead. It looks like a bridge, or a boardwalk of some kind.
That'll definitely be an improvement over swimming.
As the two exchange relieved glances, Laeran crouches to get a better look at the shattered remains of one of the skeletons.
What happened here? Perhaps some sort of infection? Certainly not naturally occurring. Whatever it is seems to have slowly overtaken these corpses. I believe the crystal is the animating force here.
For corrupted undead, they sure do have style.
Vicnys bends over to pick up a skull with his clawed hand. Shards grow out of an eye socket and extend front to back like a mohawk.
Right. These things look way cooler than your average skeleton.
Tim approaches the large cluster of glowing rocks jutting out from the ground and flips a small shard over with the toe of his boot. He takes out a handkerchief and picks it up, trying to get a closer look, but also avoiding direct contact with his skin. The shard feels warm in the cloth, but is paradoxically almost painfully cold when he tries to touch it directly.
This doesn't look like any fey magic I've ever seen. I don't think it's endemic to this world. Do you see how this crystal looks like it's growing through the back of the shack there? We don't know if this infected these corpses before or after they died.
Vicnys stiffens a bit and then drops the skull on the ground.
We should probably leave these things alone until we know more about this crystal stuff.
Yes, I quite agree. Still fascinating. A new unholy way to deny peace to the dead.
Laeran straightens and looks towards the hut. In doing so, he sees a trap door, barely visible beneath the muck and the mud.
What is this now?
Careful! It might be trapped. Let me check it to make sure.
Tim wraps the shard many times with the cloth and places it in his pocket.
A trapped trap door. What a novel idea.
Rosjen hurries over to the door. Feeling carefully along the rotted, spongy wood, she looks for anything unusual. However, time and weather have hidden much, and she gives up quickly. She raps her knuckles against the wood. Satisfied, she grabs one of the aged wooden handles, but it barely budges.
Ugh, it's stuck. Tom, help me out with this.
On it.
The pair grunt and strain for a moment, until finally with a plop and the sucking sound of mud, the trapdoor flops open, revealing an ancient, decrepit ladder that extends down for about 10 feet before ending abruptly in the same dark and murky water of the surrounding swamp.
Well, that's a pretty solid dead end. I'm not going down there.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Let's check the hut.
We came here to deliver an invitation, not to burglarize abandoned houses.
Without heeding Laeran, Rosjen bounds up the rickety wooden steps.
Ugh, it's too dark. I can't see anything through the window.
Rolling his eyes, Laeran motions for the bard and paladin to follow. The steps creak beneath their feet, and Vicnys holds carefully onto the rail as he ascends, not trusting the old wood. Rosjen has her face pressed up against a window. Vicnys leans over Rosjen to peek through.
I can't make heads or tails of it either.
Laeran walks purposefully over to the door and knocks loudly, but to no answer.
Move over. Let me take a look. These peepers aren't just pretty after all.
Tim rubs at the fogged glass of the window and peers inside. The decor is Spartan and covered in a thick layer of dust. 3 hunched figures are in the center of the room, hands raised, all motionless. A chill runs down his spine, and Tim shivers.
I don't know, but I don't think we're in any danger.
The party opens the door and steps carefully inside. Laeran once again utters a prayer and his torch lights up, illuminating the room. The light reveals the 3 figures to be women, or creatures that look almost like women. One is tall, with long, stringy hair and a crooked nose. The second is squatter, with a pair of horn-like growths sprouting from her knotted forehead. The third is almost naked, wearing little but rags, her matted, plaited hair hiding the features of her face. All 3 stand with arms upraised around a cauldron, the fire underneath which has long grown cold. It quickly becomes apparent why none of them are moving. Laeran spits on the ground in disgust.
Hags! A whole god's cursed coven of them.
You've all been turned to stone. What could have possibly caused this?
Something far more powerful than any of us. Hags of any kind are not to be trifled with, far less an entire coven.
Yeah, green hags could literally make you eat your own asshole and make you like it. but this isn't stone.
Tem walks cautiously towards one of the hag statues. He carefully drags a finger over one of the creatures, sniffs it, and then licks it.
It's salt.
I feel very, very uncomfortable about being here.
I am firmly on Laeran's side.
Hold on. Based on the layer of dust on everything, no one's been here in a long time. I think we're safe from them. And hags hold powerful magic. There could be something really useful here.
Rosjen and Tim investigate the room while the cleric and paladin stand awkwardly next to the door. Save for a few empty cabinets, a desk, and an old bed frame from which the mattress has long ago rotted. All that remains are a few scattered scraps of paper on the floor. Rosjen, however, finds a single intact page on the desk.
What's that you've got there, Rosjen?
I don't know. It looks like a picture of a key. There's something written under it in a language that I can't make out, but it's very elegant and pretty.
The script is definitely Elvish, but the language is far older. This is Sylvan. I can't quite make it out. Laeran, part of you is Elvish. Can you read it?
Part of me? All of me? Okay, part of me. Anyway, let me take a look. Yes, this dialect is known to me.
What does it say?
Well, in common, it reads essentially as, "This is not a key."
This is not a key? What is that supposed to mean?
Well, it's not, is it? It's just a picture of a key. A representation.
Well, that's hardly helpful. What about these other pages?
The party searches through the scraps on the floor, but all are either too rotted or faded to read, save for one. A single word is legible.
Revenge. Well, that certainly is ominous, like the rest in here, although it has much to compete with. Come, it's time to move on. There's nothing more to learn for here now. Let us be gone from this cursed place.
What lies further in the swamp? Join us next time for another chapter.
Tales by Tabletop is a series supported by a dedicated team. They make this project happen and infinitely more fun. Laeran is played by Jim Cook and voiced by Jay DeGraff. Rosjen is played by Misty Harper and voiced by Jazlyn Pintar. Tim is voiced and played by Phil Boelche. Your narrator is David Nayland. Story coordinators are Mike Becker, Chris Hultin, and Zac McAuley. Sound effects provided by freesound.org and music provided by tabletopaudio.com. The theme for Tales by Tabletop was created by David Vass. This show is edited and directed by Zac McAuley, Travis Nellor, and is produced by Michael Blackard.